The Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura, California, presents a homily by author Florencia Ramirez, titled and based on her book, Eat Less Water, recorded on Sunday morning, October 24th, 2021.
Good morning, and welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. I'm Worship Associate Sue Brinkmeyer, and I really am delighted to be here with all of you, both here in our sanctuary and those of you with us via Zoom or YouTube. Our minister, the Reverend Dana Worsnop, is away today. In our pulpit for this service will be Florencia Ramirez, author of the book, Eat Less Water. Some of you may remember hearing from Florencia when she was here with us 3 years ago, talking about her book. She is a wonderful speaker and writer who has won awards both as an environmental hero and as an author. The agricultural area of Oxnard drew her family to California from Mexico 3 generations ago as migrant farm workers, and she now lives there between the ocean and the fields with her husband and 3 children. We are so pleased to have Florencia with us, especially for this service today, which congregations all across the land are celebrating as UU at the United Nations Sunday, with the theme, Climate All In for Climate Justice, Food Equity, and Sustainability. We celebrate all that our UUA office at the United Nations is doing to support our UU values as they work with world leaders to achieve the sustainability goals adopted by the UN, among them to end hunger, promote sustainable agriculture, reduce inequality within and among countries, and protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of Earth's ecosystems to combat desertification and halt biodiversity loss. Welcome, Florencia. I am so looking forward to hearing from you later in the service. First, 3 announcements. If you've not done so yet, would you please go to UUCV this week to complete the survey about reopening? Your opinions about how and when we do that are important. Also, the online auction has begun. We have over 100 items available for your bids, among them amazing art and jewelry, professional services, delivered food items, in-person events, including dinners, games, and barbecues. We even have a customized, family-friendly scavenger hunt and an amazing Ventura race. So go to charityauction.bid/UUCV to see all the great items available and get your bids in. The auction will run through November 7. Remember, this is our one big fundraiser of the year, so buy generously and have fun. Finally, I want to remind you that next Sunday, October 31, we can all be together outdoors for the All Generations service, including a Tree of Remembrance ritual. Those who wish to do so may, of course, join us via Zoom or YouTube. Let us now breathe. Breathe together, here in the sanctuary and at home, as we contemplate ways we can live more sustainably to preserve both this land, the ancestral home of the Chumash people, and the lands all around the world that are in such desperate need of our care. Breathe. And breathe again. Let us enter sacred space.
Good morning. I'm Worship Associate Celia Ortenberg. We invite those of you who are Zooming or streaming into this service to light a chalice at home, as Sue lights the chalice of our free faith here in this sanctuary. May its light remind us once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other worldwide. And we begin our service this morning with these words by Lynn Harrison. Committed to respond to the call of a wounded world, we join together this day with loving hearts, hands, and minds, embracing the interconnected web of water, air, and earth. We light a fire of sustaining hope, ever bright with love and justice. May we bring forth this day new wisdom, strength, and courage to create a new world, not of wealth, but of new well-being, a world of new peace and abundance for all. As we give thanks for this earth, our shared and singular home, may we dedicate ourselves to its ongoing care, rising to the calls deep within us and all around us. May we respond today and always with courage and love. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. I'm Carolyn Bierke, the music director, and I'd like to welcome you all and invite you to join me in singing. Our opening hymn is number 318, We Would Be One. The words are on the screen, and so please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing. We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding.
This is the time in our service when we share a story for the child in each of us. Today, I offer a tale about a great truth the children help us see. Me and the Mountain, written by Vicki Ridley. It's funny how you remember where you were and what you were doing for certain life events. When the big me appeared on the side of Mount Everest 10 years ago now, I was at the advertising agency where I worked as an intern. I can still see it as if it were yesterday. My boss came into the conference room, bristling with excitement and spluttering, "Whoever did this is a genius, a complete genius." He turned on the TV, and every news channel was showing pretty much the same image. I could see what he was talking about. It appeared that a person or persons unknown had managed to graffiti the snow on the southern slope of Mount Everest with huge red letters, big enough that you could see them even from space. They'd graffitied the word "me" on the mountainside. This was an advertising event of the grandest scale. Simply genius. In the days that followed, we waited for the big reveal. But the big product linked never came. The me on the mountain remained unchanged and unexplained. A few weeks later, the initial party of climbers reached the 10-meter high red spar on the first letter of the me on the mountain. And they came back with some startling news for us all. The letters were formed by nature. A biological overbloom of an indigenous Himalayan red lichen had grown those two letters into the mountainside with a startling clarity. A miracle. Me. The world struggled to grasp the significance of that simple word. And yet, the more we tried to rationalize, the more the truth eluded us. In the end, it was the children, not the ad reps, who explained. To them, it was obvious. The earth was speaking to us. It was telling us it was alive. It had declared itself capable of expression in kilometers-long letters so that even an idiot could understand. I am here. That was 10 years ago now. There were no more written messages from Earth. There did not need to be. We worked out what it meant for ourselves at last. The fires, floods, storms, droughts, and extinctions, even the earthquakes, were Earth's guttural cries of agony. No longer able to bear the pain, she was somehow able to manifest on the side of Everest a word of purest simplicity, me. And it wasn't carbon emissions that were the real problem, as we had been taught. It was the whole system of selfishness and greed. I finally walked out of the advertising business when they asked me to do a promo piece on why the earth would support the free market. A few months later, the whole advertising industry collapsed alongside the industrial media complex that had underpinned it. You see, by then, people were changing. We were thinking for ourselves. no longer believing in the stories we'd been told. I, like many millions who saw the miracle that day, the me on the mountain, underwent a profound transformation. I became a servant of Gaia, and my job was to tell people the truth. I walked the earthly pilgrimage to the Mount Everest base camp to witness for myself the miracle of me. I loved the company of my fellow pilgrims. We were a global family, and at our head, Mother Earth, larger than us, much bigger than me.
Each Sunday, this congregation gives away our collection to an organization in the larger community or to help people in our own church. Those at home have two ways of giving: through the link posted in the chat and by texting from your phone at 844-901-1779. Folks present can text to texted give, or you can still write a check or give cash, and then at the end of the service, drop it in the basket in the rear of the sanctuary. Our offering today goes to our dear Camp de Benneville Pines as it continues to struggle to recover from losses during the pandemic and the forest fires. Our donations will not only help to keep the camp open with special camp gatherings for youths, adults, families, visual artists, musicians, men's group, and yoga enthusiasts, but also provide scholarships so that no one finds themselves unable to go to this, our UU spiritual home in the mountains, simply because of lack of funds. Thank you for giving generously, as you always do. We are, as always, grateful for the generosity of this congregation, which weaves a tapestry of love that we call community. As we move into joys and sorrows, I have a great sorrow to share. A longtime member of our church community, Bob Jones, has died. Bob was married to his dear wife, Bruna, for 66 years and is beloved by so many in the congregation here. The family is planning a memorial service in November in honor and remembrance of Bob Jones. Today, we light a memorial candle from our chalice flame and extinguish the chalice flame for some moments of silent reflection. The chalice flame will then be relit, and both will be extinguished at the end of our service.
As a community, joined in love, we take time each week to share all the joys and sorrows, the great joys and sorrows that come into our lives. We place a stone in water for each joy or sorrow, and the ripples that go out represent the way that each joy or sorrow flowing through the community to touch us all. You can submit a joy or sorrow each week via a link on the website, uuventura.org, or a link in our Thursday email bulletin, UUCV This Week. I invite you now to speak into the gathered community or write into the Zoom chat the names of those you wish to celebrate or memorialize, or those in need of the loving embrace of this beloved community. Celia will now place one final stone in the water for all the joys and sorrows yet unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
Please join me in singing Filled with Loving Kindness. The words will be on the screen. This meditative hymn we will sing 3 times, one with kindness for ourselves, one sending kindness out to others, and the last time, kindness to all of us. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I
Our reading today is History's Road by Marjorie Bowles-Wheatley and Clyde Grubbs. The road to history is long, full of both hope and disappointment. In times past, there have been wars and rumors of wars, violence and exploitation, hunger and homelessness, and destruction of this earth. We have become a global village with a growing realization of how fragile this earth is and how interconnected we all are to each other and to all creation. We cannot continue to live in the old way. We must make a change, see a new way, a way towards peace, justice, and a healthy planet.
We think of the prophets, women and men who voiced unpopular opinions, who made personal sacrifices, lost their lives for the sake of justice. We think of Isaiah, who called out to let those who were held in captivity go free, to give solace to the poor and homeless. Let us be inspired by all who work to overcome misery, poverty, and exploitation.
We think of Harriet Tubman, who called out to people of goodwill to join her on an underground railroad, to lift a dehumanized people from the bondage of slavery to the promise of freedom, even when it meant challenging unjust laws. Let us be inspired by those who are outlaws for freedom.
We think of Gandhi, whose belief in soul force, the witness of love's truth, helped to overthrow the oppression of an empire and gave witness to the way of nonviolent action. Let us be inspired to become witnesses for peace.
We think of Chief Seattle, who reminded us that we belong to the earth, not the earth to us. Let us be inspired by all those who work for the healing of creation, of Mother Earth, and all her creatures.
Who are your prophets, those that inspire you? They may be well known or known only to you, offering personal inspiration, courage, and hope. May they join a great cloud of witnesses to a new way of life, the way of sustainability and justice, lived according to the ways of peace and love. A beloved global community. May it be so. I invite you now to enjoy These Gardens Are Blueprints, written and shared by Naima Penniman.
Every patch of earth unencumbered by concrete, where soil and atmosphere meet, be a portal to presence, a terrain of remembrance, a vote for survival in an unpromised future. These gardens are blueprints of interdependent destiny, intergenerational memory, saving seeds for food as remedy. See, my people know what it's like to eat and still be starving. So we turn it hardship into harvest, lawns and schoolyards into gardens, homegrown bounty in our palms. We come from soil and stardust, and so we conjure. Giving props to the magicians who grow provisions for our kitchens. We smuggle spinach into prisons, transform the places that we live in. Trade psychosis for symbiosis and stay focused. We sprout sunflowers that tower on neighborhood blocks, harvest raindrops on rooftops that water our crops, propagate plant medicine for the metropolis, guarding our plots, because our gardens are not for profit or loss. Cross-pollinate the promise, fam. We got this. Take a deep breath. Restore calmness. With lemon balm bounty in our palms, hot peppers in our pockets, black-eyed peas spiraling up Lenape blue corn stalks with buttercup squash carpets, three sisters symbiotic, talking stories of solidarity on native territory. Migratory monarchs transcend borders, morning glories ascend fences. Pay attention to the lessons Mother Nature keeps expressing, how to multiply our blessings. For justice and sustenance amid glaring disparity, every seed saved will set us free. In an age of opulence and scarcity, every seed saved will set us free. In a time of intensifying violence and climate calamity, every seed saved will set us free. Hold on tight to the source. We have all that we need.
I invite you now into a time of stillness. Arrive where you are, in the body that holds your conscious beingness. Feel your feet touching Mother Earth. Feel yourself breathing in love and breathing out peace. Remember that you are alive and capable of kindness, even when the world isn't always. Breathe.
Let the mountain talk, let the rivers run. There is wisdom here, there is much to learn, there is much to know, much to understand. In this healing time, all across the land, side by side we stand, under one blue sky, moving through this world of diversity. Waters find their way as one to the sea. In this healing time, toward real unity. Through these darker days, on this narrow line, help us find our way, help us see the signs. We are not afraid, we are not alone. You have taught us well, you have brought us home. let the rivers run as the world awakes to the rising sun. In each brand new day, in our own rebirth, in this healing time, on our Mother Earth. Let the mountain talk, let the rivers run. There is wisdom here, there's so much to learn. In each brand new day, in our own rebirth, in this healing time, for our Mother Earth. In each brand new day, may we understand, in this healing time, in our many lives.
So beautiful. Everything that's been said today is so beautiful. I've been in and out of crying today, just listening to this. So I just feel lots of emotion around the topic today. And I just want to start by saying, I am you and you are me. And that is why that story that was told earlier resonated so deeply with me, because that is a mantra that I've had for a long time. So whenever I do lots of interviews and speaking engagements, and before I begin, I start with that thought in my head. I am you and you are me. And when I do, it puts me at ease because I feel the connection. When I walk into a room or into a space, or even driving, and I'll look at someone who's asking for money, and I'll think that I am you and you are me, and it heightens my experience of being in this world. So in that story about me and the mountain and the message that the author puts forth around nature being alive, I would move that thought even further to think that there is no separation between me and that mountain. And there's no separation between me and this wood pedestal, or the people who sit behind me, or this floor, or this chalice. There's no separation in that. I am nature, and nature is me. You know, I have written a book about water, so I think a lot about water, and it guides me. It's my teacher in so many different ways. But when we're born, we are 70% water. That happens to be exactly the ratio of water on this planet. 70% water on this planet. 70% of water courses through our bodies on the moment of our birth. That's not an accident. That's recognition that we are the same. So whatever we do on this planet is reflected in our own bodies. And then there's the other thought, that every part of our bodies is from the stars. It originated in a star, you and I, even through several supernovas. I mean, it's even hard to wrap your mind around that we are stars. So that even takes us beyond being earthbound, but rather into the universe itself, which is why it's so beautiful that this church, this congregation is called Unitarian Universalist, is that recognition, right? That we are well beyond even this planet, but we're connected to everything, and everything is connected to us. So to think about the United Nations, and that's why I was invited to come here today, to celebrate the day that the United Nations, not the day that they came up with the charter, but rather the day when the charter went into effect, was 76 years ago in 1945. So to take you back to that time when it was created, the United Nations, it was at the end of World War II. In fact, when the charter was signed was in July of 1945. The United States bombs Hiroshima in August of 1945, kills 80,000 people instantaneously, and then a few days later does it again and kills another 40,000 people. And then the charter becomes solidified in October. So you had a group of people who, even in all of this chaos, this international chaos, I mean, we think we're going through a chaotic time now. Can you imagine what it was in 1945? Who still held to this idea that the only way forward for a peaceful planet, because that was the charge, was how can we help other future generations not to have war? It was this understanding that the only way forward was together. It was to bring nations together, this understanding that we cannot be divided by our human constructs of borders, the human constructs of ethnicity or culture or language, but this understanding that we share one planet, that I am you and you are me. And even now, the principles of the United Nations are still are scrutinized and are still challenged, right? With this notion that certain nations should come before others and certain ideas should weigh more than others. So I think a lot about, I mean, the United Nations is a guide for what can be, and it certainly is a guide for what I do, the work that I do. So now the United Nations understands that what we are facing together is climate change, and that many of the wars that will come to pass in the future will be around water and who owns that water, and about the movement of people, and we see it now because of harsh conditions of where they live and that they need to move. You know, we do it too, but it's, you know, we're not just carrying stuff in our backpacks, in our pockets, but rather we put our houses up for sale because we can't handle the smoke anymore or don't want to be close to the fires and are trying to find another place, right? And then we buy another home. So climate change migration happens in many different forms. I wrote some notes. I usually don't write notes, but I wrote notes because I have so much that I want to talk about. The United Nations, as you know, puts together a report that comes out. I don't know if it's annually, but it came out this last summer, the IPCC report, which is a merging of the greatest scientific minds from around the world. It came out in August, and I know this because of all places, me and my kids were on our way to Disneyland. And as we were on our way to Disneyland, we have NPR on, and it's talking, the top scientists are giving us a summary of what's in that report. Sea level rise, more fires, more extreme weather, more migration of people, and it's going to happen faster than what they had originally thought. So our car is feeling heavy, for sure. I had 2 teenagers in the back seat. My daughter is Celia, who's 14, and my son Joaquin, who is 15. And Joaquin says to me, "Mom, are we screwed?" And it's funny and it's sad, right, at the same time. "Mom, are we screwed?" What do you say to that? What do you say to your kids who will outlive you to that? So the next few days, I was meditating on that because, of course, the work that I do is about growing well-being. It's about partnering with solutions. It's about knowing why I'm doing the work, but at the same time not focusing on that, but rather focusing on how I can make things better, right? That's what makes me do the work I do and pushes me to move forward. So then I came across something I had written, or a quote that I had written down many years before from the book The Alchemist. I'm sure many of you have read that book, and if you haven't, it's a good time to read it or read it again. And I had jotted down all of these different quotes from the book that resonated, because each time you read that book, different things come forward, depending on where you are in your life. So I come across this one. God only rarely reveals the future. This is the alchemist talking to the shepherd boy after the shepherd had seen an omen in the desert. So he says, God only rarely reveals the future. When he does, so it is ferociously one reason. It's a future that was written so as to be altered. So that one reason, it's a future that was written so as to be altered. And when I read that, immediately I knew that that IPCC report is one that reveals a future that is written as to be altered. And that's where we come in. That's where we come in. When I first started the work to write my book, Eat Less Water, it was based on the statistic that water experts say that by 2030, half the world population will experience some type of water scarcity. And by 2050, it gets worse, and then by, of course, in 100 years, it's even worse than that. So it is a story that I wanted to alter, that I wanted to rewrite, because we do get to rewrite the story, because we are writing the story collectively. I just had a conversation recently with some really wonderful activists, and like those people in the beginning of the United Nations who had this idea that the only way forward is together, I challenged the language that was being used in the conversation to describe their experiences. So it was people were talking about, and we do this, we all do this, about, growing up, for example, in rural Mississippi, which was one world, and then going to university, which was another world, or going back to between two families, which one represented one world, and going back to another family that represented another world. And each time, as I was listening to the way that we are using language, it occurred to me that maybe we need to reframe the way we talk about our own experiences to suggest that we need to talk about it not as these different worlds, but rather maybe saying we have these different experiences, but we live in one world. We have one shared world. So to drop the language that separates us, that divides us, right? Without realizing that that's what we're doing. So then I started to say how, I'm not just Florencia, I'm not just a woman or a mother or an activist or a person of color, or all of these categories that we put ourselves in. And again, being taught by water, having this understanding that even to put ourselves in those categories limits us, it still separates, rather, then brings us together so that we can recognize that I am you and you are me. And when that happens, so going back to water, and I woke up this morning thinking about this, that when you boil water, liquid, and to that point where it turns into steam, right? It rises into steam, and then it merges together, doesn't it? So when I think about myself, not necessarily in those categories that I may not share with you, but rather to think about myself as I am a seeker of knowledge. I am a spiritual person or a spiritual being. I love beauty. I want to grow well-being. Those are things that we can all share. So if we all rise as steam and are in that space, then we fuse, and then we are, anything is possible. Then that is where there is a power of the collective, and that is how we will move forward. That is how we will move to a planet that is one of peace. That is how we will move to a planet that is growing well-being in all things. That is how we'll move away from pollution and food that is grown in soil that is dying and has no nutrition, right? These are the things that we can do, but we could only do it if we move forward. And if we think about that mountain that says, me, and understand that we are nature and nature is me, that we are a reflection of this planet, and we hold the stars in every aspect of our body. So I want to end. I was watching the chalice, or just paying attention to the shape of the chalice, and realized how it is like an open hand, and I ask you to do it with me. The chalice shape. It's like it's allowing, it is inclusive, it is a heart open. And then I ask you to merge those two hands and to bow in a namaste, because the divine in me sees the divine in you. Namaste.
Well, talk about having wisdom to share. Thank you so much, Florencia. We asked Florencia to bring a few copies of her book, Eat Less Water. So if you want more of the wisdom that she does share about how we can live more sustainably on this planet, I bought my copy 3 years ago. I invite you now to think about COP26, the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference that is about to convene in Glasgow just 1 week from today. In recognition of this the momentous nature of this event and the future that depends on what happens there, I ask that in just a moment you join me in reading the prayer of healing from the United Nations Environment Program. Spirit of light and love, may our world leaders hear the cries of our Mother Earth. May they take bold action now so that together, across the globe, we join with the earth and with each other to bring new life to the land, to restore the water, to refresh the air. We join with the earth and with each other to renew the forests, to care for the plants, to protect the creatures. We join with the earth and with each other to create the human community, to promote justice and peace, to remember our children. We join together as diverse expressions of one living mystery for the healing of the earth and the renewal of all life. May it be so.
I invite you to join me in singing our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home. Please rise and embody your spirit.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known, the wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, are we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves unholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known, the wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Please join me in reading the words on the screen as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Those we carry into our lives until we are together again. After the benediction and the postlude, those of you on Zoom will see an invitation on your screens to join the breakout room to continue your time together. Those of you here in the sanctuary can use a personal device to join a breakout room if you wish. And if you have cash or checks, remember to drop it by in the basket at the bottom, at the back of the sanctuary. And I leave you today with these words from Kalidasa. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities, the realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow only a vision. But today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Go forth in peace, go forth in health, go forth in love. May it be so.
We hope you've enjoyed Eat Less Water, presented by Florencia Ramirez, recorded on October 24th, 2021, for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura, California.